You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you.
We're living in a very dangerous time right now, and liberalism has lost their cotton-picking mind.
The Trump folks, if they found out how we knew what we knew about the Trump staff dealing with Russians, that they would try to compromise those sources and methods.
Nobody ever said anything about resisting Obama. They went at him on legitimate arguments.
I really do believe that much of what you saw coming out of Trump's mouth was a play from Putin's playbook.
Welcome to the Abolitionists Roundtable, your all-access pass to exposing fake news, the resistance, and the global elite's shadow government undermining American progress. Be a part of the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your all-American hosts, Del Marsh and Phil Stargell.
And good morning. This is Phil Stargell, and this is the Abolitionist Roundtable of Michigan. And it is the last show of the year and the last show of the month, of course. And I would like to say I hope everybody had a very, very Merry Christmas and hope you had all your dreams came through in 2017. It was a very, very up and down year, but one thing about it, I made a resolution at the first of last year. I have it here somewhere, and I'm going to read it to you and see what it looks like. I think I hit pretty much what I wanted to do, even though I did not take advantage of what I was trying to do. I said I wanted to learn as much about the subject as I could and then make some decisions on whether or not I wanted to invest. I'm trying to find the 2017 New Year's resolution that I made, and of course it's probably down at the bottom of the stack, but regardless, we'll continue. So what I wanted to do is just ask everybody if there is a resolution that they made last year and how it came out, and if you plan on making another resolution this year. So what I want to do is, boy, I tell you, you can get in the agenda, you can get caught up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go on with the agenda. First of all, I want to ask everybody, had they had a chance to say a prayer this year for the Commander-in-Chief, because he's going to need it coming up in 2018. And this is what I want to say to everybody. I'm asking the good Lord and the Savior of the universe, I want to ask him to give guidance and give good wisdom to our president, because we are going to embark on a year that is going to be, just filled with a danger to the United States and to the rest of the world, because we have some treachery in foreign relations with China and the young madman in North Korea. And maybe he's not a madman. Maybe he's just an adventurer who believes that he can use some of the anger and some of the hatred toward our president to continue to hold the world hostage in a nuclear situation. And that's what we are facing. the possibility that this little man, as President Trump says, the little rocket man, is because there's no doubt in my mind that if he is able to bring about a sense of where he can have some type of parity, and it doesn't really mean parity. I mean, in technology and stuff like that, all he has to do is have the capability to hit us, and he can get away with a whole lot of stuff, because the world right now seems to be against the conventional notion that people like this are not capable of having that type of power, and they will misuse it. So I'm asking everybody to do like me and say a prayer for our president, and regularly ask the Lord to give him guidance so he can guide us through this year, because it's all coming to a head. Because even if there's some kind of solution with North Korea, there's still Iran to be reckoned with. And it's just the same nonsense. I mean, people put off dealing with this and refuse to confront it, and that goes from far back as Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George Bush the First, Bill Clinton, George Bush the Second, Barack Obama. All refused to deal with this in a realistic manner. And now what we've got is we're in a position where there are very, very few options. And then we have President Trump trying to get the Chinese to rein in their mad dog. And what do we see? We see things like President of China saying you can't use sanctions to starve North Korea into coming into compliance. And so now we understand. If you understand that, you can understand why it is that he's making it possible for oil to be transported into North Korea. How they can take advantage of getting Korean workers and the other people to bring income into North Korea. How they can use their fleet of fishing trawlers to sell their goods into China, because China is 95%, 85% of their trading is done through China. And China is not doing what they said they're doing. And now we have a situation where we are going to have to make a decision as to whether or not we want to ratchet this up another notch. And I want to make one thing clear. There has been a lot of games being played with our military. They have not funded the military adequately. It's the only portion of our economy that actually witnessed some cuts in their budget. And that is hurting us, because we can't fly all of our B-1 bombers. We can't fly all of our fighters. We can't train our pilots, because the training craft has been appropriated to the active duty people. So the training is suffering. So we are the world's greatest military has been played politics with, like everything else. And all these compromises that these people keep asking for in the Democrat Party, if you go back in history, you'll see every time there's a compromise, the safety of this country is put at risk by members of the Democrat Party. And they're doing it by saying that the Republican Party is the party of racism. And people believe that nonsense. And what we are doing is we're importing people into the country because we are not taking advantage of the resources we have here. And the number one reason why, in no uncertain terms, is this country is not producing enough people, even though they're telling us that we need more birth control and more abortions. We are not producing enough Americans in this country, so we're importing so much more of what we need, and we are having our lunch eaten by the Chinese and other countries because of the fact that we are in a crisis. And I'm gonna elaborate on that in just a minute, because it is some things coming up in this country, where we're talking about millions and millions of jobs expected to be coming forth in the high tech and the STEM sector of our economy. And we are solely underrepresented in the training grounds, in the universities, and all of the other things. And so we're importing much too many of these applicants into the STEM programs. And and we are sitting around talking about importing more and more people into the country while Americans are being in the unemployment lines. Now, we just heard that that black unemployment is down for the first time in a number of years, but still is not taking advantage of the opportunities. And as I said, we're going to get into that in just a minute, because I'm going to give you some statistics about these programs that are bringing in people from other countries, because they have much better candidates to go into our colleges and take advantage of the training that is coming from our great universities. The Chinese, the Indians, and the South Koreans. They're eating the lunch of high-paying jobs of Americans, and we are sitting back worrying about whether or not there's an article right now on the internet I was just looking at. They're looking at racism as the all important bugaboo to stop people from doing what it is they need to do in order to take advantage of the opportunities that exist in this country. First of all, we're not taking advantage of those opportunities. We are allowing somebody else to take advantage of it, and allowing our politicians to say things like, these immigrants are doing jobs Americans won't do. That is just unacceptable. And it's unacceptable to me, and it should be unacceptable to everybody else in this country to have somebody even think that there are people that are willing to do jobs that Americans won't do, and they are unemployed. I just don't understand that. But anyway, we're going to get on with the agenda. First up on the agenda, like I was saying about China, there's an article that says it sure looks like China is secretly selling oil in North Korea. And what I'm saying in this is that the liberals in this country are willing to side with North Korea, because they're saying things like, Trump is going to get us into a war, and Trump is doing this and then doing that, and but they better be trying to figure out a way to get behind the president and have some unity, because the only thing that I've heard from a bunch of the people that should be more responsible is that they are angry because President Trump used his Twitter account to make a statement about North Korea and China looking the other way to help North Korea. The thing about it is that China is telling us one thing and doing exactly another. They've been doing it for years. Now, what are we going to do? Are we going to allow the socialist element in this country to side with North Korea and tell the country that because of the threat that we have to live and coexist with a madman with a nuke? No, I think that if there's a viable option, we ought to be looking at it very hard. And like I said, we need very much to have some prayer for wisdom to make sure that the president does the right thing, because our backs are up against the wall. We're dealing with an absolute person that wants to throw rocks and hide his hands by saying things like and agreeing with the element here that the only reason why, I mean, I've heard people say things like, we have the nuclear armaments, why are we saying that North Korea can't have the nuclear armament? That's the thing that a bunch of young people are saying, and they're saying that it's as a result of racism, because racists believe that they are the only ones that should be able to control these kind of things, and they have used these weapons before. This is the kind of logic that has gotten us into trouble, because the one thing about it is we are basically responsible for the North Koreans having the ability to do this. Now, and I'm just gonna put the blame right where it belongs. Bill Clinton made possible the technology to get certain packages into orbit. He allowed that technology to be given to China. And China was not able to put things into orbit. Now they've even gone to the moon or around the moon or something, but they didn't have that capability of putting things up in the orbit, because nobody wanted to see China with the nuclear capability that would put them on a level playing field with the rest of the world that had the technology. They did not have it. We allowed them to get it. And so now we see that that technology has gone to China, to the North Korea. So, what does anybody expect China to really help us stop North Korea? That is their proxy. That is their main main way of sticking a finger in the eye of America. And when people in this country are very eager to call somebody a racist, it just adds to the animosity that the people in China and North Korea and in the rest of the world. It just adds to the fact that, well, there are Americans calling the president a racist, so we can step up that rhetoric too. Now, people are taking sides with these North Korean people to say that they should be having the ability to have this, just like they're saying that the Iranians should have this ability. But it is because of people like Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter, and the Democrat Party that they were given this technology in order to keep from starving people to death, like the Chinese just said, that you can't force people into compliance by starving them to death. And so now we see that China maybe never had any intent to back North Korea down in the first place. But because of the fact that we seem to be in a position from the Democrat Party where they want us to negotiate and all of this nonsense, and I say that what do we have to negotiate with? They're not going to give up anything willingly, and obviously China is not going to tighten the screws down any further. They're going to always have them have a little bit of wiggle room. And so since this last episode where the Chinese are caught red-handed making oil available to North Korea, the only thing that I can hear from the opposition party in the United States is maybe we could stop some of the students from China from using our institutions to take advantage of the STEM programs in this country, because they are eating our lunch, as I said. And like I said, I'm going to get into that, and I'm going to give you some statistics in a minute. But that's the only thing that I can see of anybody saying what we should do against China because of them being caught red-handed supplying oil to the North Koreans is to cut back on the student visas of the from China that are coming in the United States to get jobs in this country that Americans should be doing anyway. So this and these numbers that I have come up with are just appalling to me. So after the break, we're going to get into some of those numbers of the STEM programs and other programs. And if you'd like to get in on the conversation, that number is 734-822-1600. And we'll be back right after these messages.
Singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer.
You're listening listening to the Abolitionists Roundtable with your hosts, Del and Phil. They're exposing the left's underground resistance while leading the charge in the fight for liberty. Join the conversation at 734-822-1600.
Hello, I'm Milt, and this is, logically speaking, Uncensored, Zero Tolerance. In the lexicon of political correctness, zero tolerance means rejection of anything liberal, left-wing collectivists deem unacceptable. Liberal left-wing collectivist agendas have empowered and instituted zero tolerance throughout the United States and the world as a dogma of domination. The effectiveness of zero tolerance as a stratagem cannot be denied, as witnessed by the fact that principled people are bullied into silence, afraid to speak up, speak out, and say, do, or criticize aberrant behaviors, perversions, immoralities, or evil indoctrinations. And despite its totalitarian, oppressive disregard of civil entitlements, zero tolerance has been endorsed and received by a large segment of society, particularly in the citadels of academia and politics. I contend and stress that if zero tolerance is good enough for those who hate the United States, then it should be good enough to be used as a deterrent weapon against our enemies, both domestic and foreign, by patriots who cherish the United States. As the United States confront multiple internal cultural wars of incivilities and inhumanities such as murders by abortion and radical moral decay, the nation can ill afford the luxury of tolerance towards entities fighting to achieve our demise. Therefore, zero tolerance is an essential necessity. So, as a proud American who is not ashamed to proclaim allegiance and loyalty to the United States, I propose that the nation embrace the format of zero tolerance and apply it to all instigators and insurrectionists whose actions or deeds are detrimental to the United States, and especially to traitors and perpetrators of treason, both home and abroad. Under the jurisdiction of zero tolerance, trespassers who violate our borders should be classified as criminals and harshly penalized. And this should include green card and visa violators. Zero tolerance should also be applied to include anarchists and seditionists with provisos of incarceration and or deportation. So I implore all who love America to fight for that which is right and petition those in power to endorse and impose zero tolerance upon terrorists, environmental fascists, and climate change hoaxers, socialistic communism, hate America factions, children abusers and female genital mutilators, fake gender promoters, Democrat Party revisionist history, and all ideologies that advocate destruction, death, and violence upon Christians and Jews. If zero tolerance is implemented by the right people for the right causes and right reasoning, like the curtailment of our enemies, then it is a good thing, because zero tolerance against enemies of the United States is not a vice. I am Milt, logically speaking, uncensored, saying, think of it.
And that was one of the sterling commentaries by Milt Harris, and we want to thank him for sending that over. And speaking of Milt Harris, myself, Janice Daniels, we are very much concerned about my co-host, Del Marsh. He has, today he has another assignment this morning, But and he's doing pretty well. But what we came up on the idea that that since this was Dale Marsh's initiation into fighting for his life, we asked that everybody, if they get a chance, say a prayer for Dale Marsh, and while you're saying that prayer, maybe you could send a donation in to help with this fight against this terrible disease, cancer. So if you would say that prayer and maybe dig into your holiday gift packages and send a donation in to Dale Marsh to help fight this gallant battle that he's waging, and make your donations out to Dale Marsh and send it to Post Office Box 135, Garden City, Michigan. I'll repeat that. Post Office Box 135, Garden City, Michigan. And I'm sure that that would cheer up his holiday. And maybe we could, with prayer helps all of it. So say those prayers, and if you get a chance, send in a donation to our friend Dale Marsh. But I was able to dig up my agenda for Saturday, January the 21st, 2017. And it says that it just so happens that I made a resolution for myself to learn to either trade in the stock market or become like George Soros and deal in currency trading. And guess what? I made a decision to work on the the currency trading, and I was very, very close to buying one of those Bitcoins, and I decided not to do it. And because I just didn't know that whether or not it was a wise decision to invest about $700 into a coin that wasn't backed by anything like gold or silver or anything like that. So, because I just didn't feel I knew enough. And today I believe I do. But guess what? I made a mistake, and I did not invest, and it could have turned out to be quite a windfall. But we live and we learn. So I'm going to continue that resolution. I'm going to be a player in the stock market, and I'm going to because I have a lot of faith that this stock market and this investment and these investments are going on a plane that is straight up. And so I would suggest that people start learning as much about it as they can and join in on this Trump train, because that's what's driving it. And we'll see how it works next year. I'll come back again and I'll tell you what it is that I'm going to do and what I've done. So, okay. We're going to, there are several programs that are, in my estimation, favorable to the immigrants coming into this country, either on student visas or student scholarships to come to these universities, and they are dominating the STEM programs. there's we've heard a lot about STEM programs, but there is another program. It's called OPT, O-P-T, and here's a growing number of high-skilled foreign workers find jobs in the United States under a program known as Optimal Practical Training, which allows foreign graduates from U.S. universities to work in the country on a temporary basis. The federal government approved nearly 700,000 OPT applications in fiscal years 2008 through 14. According to a Pew Research Center analysis of U.S. immigration and customs enforcement data received through a Freedom of Information Act request, data suggests that the total number of foreign graduates using OPT may continue to increase in subsequent years. More than 1 million foreign students studied at U.S. higher education institutions in the 2015-2016 school year, a record high. Now, I'm gonna get to something that that struck me as, because we heard that the NFL is proposed contributing $100 million to meet needs of African American communities, or according to the ESPN report. And it says the league has been looking for a way to work with players who have been protesting during national anthem for social justice causes. Now, we heard recently that a big portion of this money will be given to social justice causes. And first thing I heard, well, we're supposed to be all of these STEM jobs, all of this technical stuff, and I'm talking these are big numbers in job expectation. And here we talk about $100 million being invested in the black communities, and we hear that a big portion of it may go to the social justice warriors. Now, I'm thinking somebody's priorities are messed up, and somebody needs to send these NFL players back to school and learn some history. Because, if you got millions and millions of jobs that are going into the high-tech sector of our economy, and we're talking about putting social justice numbers together. So here is the first part of some of the talk that I heard about a little collaboration with Morehouse University. It says by 2018. Now this is next week. I mean tomorrow. By 2018, it is estimated that there will be more than 8.6 million STEM-related jobs available across the nation. And if Morehouse has its way, the college's emerging graduates from these disciplines will not only fill their share of these positions, they will dominate the market. Well, I want to know are they on their way to dominating? This is 2018 is here. If this prediction sounds a bit like folly, it probably is. But at Morehouse, where rigid recruitment, masterful mentoring, and innovative instruction conspire to cultivate the talents of African American scholars fixated on careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's not conceit, it's a calling. Okay, now we see that there is a recognition of a problem, but I don't think that recognition is coming from Morehouse. They're saying that they're going to dominate, but it's 2018. And these programs like STEM and OPT are mining college students from other countries, and they are dominating these jobs and these slots in these colleges. And we're talking about dominating by pushing $100 million in the social justice causes. There's something mighty wrong with that to me. But now what I want to also say is that this OPT program is not a new program. The STEM program is a relatively new program. But this OPT program was put into effect in the 40s, 1947. So that means that they understood that we had a problem with furnishing high competent math and science students in America in 47, because they put this program together. Then they put the program together for STEM, which has been directed directly toward that science, technology, and engineering. But the OPT program was already in effect, and this was just to enhance it. Now let's go back to why would American senators and congresspeople put a program like these together when there was, in those days, there was not a real problem with a number of students that were qualified to do things. At least we didn't recognize it, but it might have been because of that old bugaboo racism that people like, well, Ted Kennedy wasn't in the program then, but he was responsible for a lot of the immigration and the numbers of immigration with visas and stuff like that in the late, in the 60s. So that's like 20 years later. So yeah, it could have been related to racism. It could have been related to the fact that they wanted a bunch of Europeans to come into the country. But what happened in the 60s when Ted Kennedy put in a lot of these programs for immigration? And then when Chuck Schumer took up the cause after Ted Kennedy left and put in a lot of these programs with STEM and all of that. But I thought the Democrats were the party of looking out for the little guy, looking out for minorities, looking out for women. But these programs, these STEM programs, are, I mean, just actually skewed toward foreign students. They are dominating our colleges and campuses. They're coming in and they're taking the courses of STEM, the STEM-related courses. And if you don't believe that all you have to do is just look at some of the companies, and you'll see that they're dominated by Indians, Chinese, Koreans. Now, am I a racist for pointing that out? Or am I realistic when I say that the Democrats have done some things that they need to be accountable for? And let's not forget our people like John Conyers, 53 years in the Congress, and the only thing I was able to find out that he's ever been able to put his name on, and is stuff with civil rights, where they are getting civil rights for black people, and foreigners are taking advantage of them. Because I mean, they're filling these companies are filling their quotas with minorities, with foreign students and foreign workers, and we are going along with it. And these jobs are the key to getting wealth in the communities, because these are high-paying jobs. Yet and still, we are importing the people to fill them. And when people like Donald Trump says Americans first, he's called a racist. But I say that it's America last when it comes to the STEM program, because the numbers are just appalling. I got some right here, and this is one of the things about I wanted to, well, first of all, I want to say about Morehouse. It is a person called Dr. Carol Epsy Wilson, First Lady of Morehouse College and a STEM pioneer, is the first African-American woman to graduate from Massachusetts Institute of Technology with a PhD in electrical engineering. She is also a professor at the University of Maryland, an entrepreneur, and a mother who is passionate about STEM, the STEM initiative. Knowing firsthand that struggles that many students face when majoring in STEM discipline, especially when they must work significant hours outside college to help pay for their education. Well, you see, we're talking about the problems that people are facing. We need to figure out a way to stop talking about the problems facing people and just get the job done. And here's the thing that really bothers me. It says the Public Health Sciences Institute is also committed to diversifying the STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematical field. Today, few students pursue expertise in STEM, and there is an inadequate pipeline of teachers skilled in these subjects to address this need. But they were saying in the other paragraph that they intended to dominate. But now we're hearing that there's a shortage of teachers that are qualified to teach at Morehouse. And 2018 is here. We are on the first wave of 8 million expected jobs. And we're talking about the problems faced by students because it's a little easier to go into other fields than it is there because of problems that are faced by. But I've heard that the students coming to this country are poor. What's going on? What's happening here? So we got a lot of work to do, and very short time to get there. And because they're eating our lunch again, I'd like to say Happy New Year. And if you get a chance, send that check to Del Marsh at Post Office Box 135, Garden City, Michigan. See you next week, folks.
The Abolitionist Roundtable invites the WAAM TALK1600 listeners to continue the roundtable discussions by mailing correspondence to Art of Michigan, Post Office Box 135, Garden City, Michigan 48135.
Or follow Phil and Del at artofmichigan.com. You can also send emails to artofmichigan@hotmail.com. And most of all, continue to listen every Saturday and tell a friend.